it always has been.
And to everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Sherry Schreiner. A couple of things I want to talk about today, It's been cold and dreary out last couple of days, and they keep the skies all dark and black so you can't see anything. And I think it's because they don't want you to see the influx of ships that are coming in. Always something interesting happening, right? I have my attention on the arrival of aquamarine-colored starships. So if anybody sees it, let me know. It's not the blue azure Capricorn starship. It's an aquamarine color. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure someone will catch it on tape. It should be coming in this week. It should be here already. And that's why they're blacking out the sky, I would imagine. A lot of interesting things in the skies to keep your eyes out for. In the Matthew 24, it says, look for signs in the skies, signs in the sun, moon, and stars. And that's certainly what we do. And once you start stargazing, you start to realize not everything is quite normal and quite what nauseating and your science teachers and everybody else wants you to believe. When I talk to people about what's in the sky, they say, all I see is stars at night. Folks, those aren't stars. So there's your beginning of Stargazing 101. Because most of what you see is not a star. In fact, we haven't seen a real star in probably 80 years. What they've done is they've put this net, this kind of cage, over the earth, and they block out our view of the stars. If you came to Ohio, even in the country, you would never see a starry-filled night with millions and billions of stars. I haven't seen that since I was a kid, and now you only see it on TV. Because they put a cage over the atmosphere. And anything under that cage isn't even a real star. It's a starship. And I've talked about before on this show how 88 of our constellations are all starship formations. They're alien starship formations. They're alien habitats, folks. And each of these constellations represents a different species of aliens. And so, and we're not the only galaxy in our universe. We're the Milky Way galaxy, and then there was the Andromeda galaxy, and then there's other galaxies. So this universe is pretty huge. It's a lot of stars in the sky, a lot of stars, what are starships, there are alien planets, there are habitations for aliens. And so I know a lot of people get hung up on the term aliens, so let's discuss aliens. I know a lot of Christians would take their Bible and beat you over the head, tell you that aliens are demons. Aliens are not demons. They're two different species. Okay, first of all, demons are the spirits of dead Nephilim. When the angels procreated with mankind and bore children on earth, those children were born giants. And so there was no judgment for them when they died at time. There was no plan to have them on the earth. And so when these offspring of the Nephilim, when they died, their spirits were cursed to roam the earth. And so that's what they do. They roam the earth, and they torment and harass mankind. They're like Satan's little fourth-dimensional army, and they do service for him. Those are demons. Aliens originally started out as fallen angels. They fell to earth. They were kicked out of heaven. And they eventually, through Lucifer, all became cursed because of his punishment in the Garden of Eden for having sexual relations with Eve. He was turned into a reptile, a snake. The whole apple, Garden of Eden metaphor, it's a metaphor, folks. It's a metaphor for the things that actually happened in the Garden of Eden. He had sexual relations with Eve. And so because of that, he was cursed, turned into a snake, a reptile. That's where we get reptilian beings today. That's where that whole reptilian faction comes from. Because not just Lucifer, but all of the fallen angels that were with him at the time became reptiles as well, even the ones on Orion. Because they were all from, when Lucifer got kicked out of heaven, and then the 1,000-year war between heaven and his forces and the heavenly planets, he was eventually banished out of the old heavenly system, and he took up residence in what we call the Orion constellation. That's why it's such a heavy significance of reptiles in that area, the Orion. It's the largest constellation in the sky, and when the Father recreated Earth and set up Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, that's when Lucifer made his way back to the earth to corrupt his creation of not just Adam and Eve, but also the earth itself. And so all of those who were with Lucifer at that time on the earth and in Orion were all turned into a reptile species, what we call reptilians. Now there's other different species in space. There's Lilith's children, the tall grays, the small grays, the angel humanoid-like beings. Those are part of the Watchers' rebellion. It was a different rebellion apart from Lucifer's. They were not cursed to lose their looks. And so there's various different types of beings in space. There's also what you would call aliens, as in, what do they call them? Xenomorphs. And all these different types of creatures. What happened was back in the war in heaven, when Lucifer rebelled against heaven, the Father says nothing new under the sun, and that's what I've been screaming about on the show. There's nothing new under the sun. They had a device back then. You can read all this in my book, Interview with the Devil. I go into it in detail. That's available on Amazon. He had his own device in what we have on Earth now, what we call CERN, or the Large Hadron Collider. He had his own back in the day, and he was pulling in creatures from other universes into this one, into ours. And so all of those creatures being banished eventually off of the planets took up residence elsewhere in the universe, within our universe. And so they're still there. They're still around. So you have many of them in space that you're dealing with, that we're going to deal with here on Earth, because he's pulling them onto Earth through CERN like he did back in the day with the heavenly planets. He pulled them onto the heavenly planets. And in this day, he's been pulling them through portals to the Earth. And he's going to unleash them all shortly after the enforcement of the Mark of the Beast. And so, the Bible talks about the veil being lifted. And that's pretty much where it's going, is that the veil which blocks the supernatural from the physical worlds will be lifted, and we will be able to see into the supernatural world. You're going to be able to see aliens. You're going to see demons. You're going to see angels. You're going to be able to see into the spiritual realm. And so both of the realms will be merged. And so that's what the Bible speaks of and talks about the veil being lifted. So all this is coming shortly upon the earth. I'm not talking days or weeks. I'm looking probably 2017, 2018 to all these creatures around the earth, and we literally see the tribulation period unfold before us. But I just want to explain a little bit about things that are going on, because Google posted this logo on their page yesterday. I posted it on my Facebook, and it shows a black cat holding up a wand, and it's looking towards this area that has a large black triangle above a house, and the triangle is representing a portal, and then you see a lot of falling lights around the portal, and on the outside of the portal you see a bunch of little scary alien demonic type beings, like they're all watching the show. They're off on the distance watching watching the show, watching the lights come down. And this is something I've been seeing for a long, long time in the Bible codes. In fact, I've talked about this triangle that has been over my area for years now. And if you look at a couple weeks ago, maybe last month, I posted a video and pictures of a blue star that has been above my house. That blue star is actually one of the stars of this triangle, but the other two stars are blue, but they're too far for me to pull in with my camera. But I got the one blue star, it's the closest to me that I could get. And I posted video and pictures of it on my Facebook, probably on my video channel as well. If you go to YouTube, look for Sherry Shriner or the Watcher Files. Yeah, the Watcher Files, both of them I have 2 channels on YouTube. But that blue star is one of the 3 stars that make up this triangle that's above this region, and it's been here for years. It's not a constellation. It doesn't come and go in seasons. It's been here for years, literally. And one of the things I see all the time is avalanche, because there's going to be like this UFO avalanche attack on Earth. I don't know if they're going to attack Earth or just my house, or, you know, it just kind of, it's one of those things that is a staple in the Bible codes, and I never get much knowledge in the way of knowing if it's confined to this region, this area, or it's going to affect the whole world, what's it going to do. But fascinating that Google came up with this logo. It's almost like they were pulling these pictures out of my mind and putting a logo, because this is the stuff I see all the time in the Bible codes. You know, everybody else wants to get into their interpretations of last days prophecies. Well, these are mine. These are the ones I see. This is the stuff we see, we deal with. You know, black triangle, definitely some kind of a portal, because I have my orgone henge directly underneath it, and that's why I figured that triangle was there, that it had something to do with my orgone henge that I put directly underneath it. I don't know what came first. I put the henge up several years ago, and since then I've had this triangle formation above my house. And I looked at the constellations, and I think the Libra constellation, there's Lyra. The Lyra constellation has like a kite on it, and Libra has the scales, and you know, you kind of try to fit it with different constellations or what it might be, and yeah, it's just a triangle. Just a big old triangle. So that's fascinating. And all the white lights, the shooting stars, the UFOs. I know there's been some talk about a fake alien invasion, and I've got my thoughts on that too, folks, because I think the reason people call it fake is because they actually have help from the military. Like, not all of the ships have aliens on them. They are flown by our military, because they have their own alien crafts, and they're going to help fill out the numbers so that it looks like there's a massive, huge attack on Earth when it's actually probably 50% aliens, and the other 50% is human militaries around the world helping out. Plus they have holographs, and there's CGIs and stuff like that, so it'll be good. It'll be convincing. But when people say it's all fake, I just gotta laugh, because I know they're coming. The Bible talks about them. People think the Bible doesn't talk about UFO alien invasions. I wrote a whole book about it back in 2005. So yeah, they're coming. interesting, November 4th, which is this Friday, is the go-to date that they begin the implementation of the Paris Agreement. Now, whenever you read anything online, you kind of get lost in the code speak and verbiage of this big hoax of carbon emissions and the Paris Agreement. Yeah, there's like over 100 countries that have signed on to the Paris Agreement. I was reading earlier today an article about Africa, and, you know, there's many countries within Africa, probably about 30 countries that are saying, hey, we know this is supposed to start Friday, but how the heck are we supposed to implement it? We have no means to implement it. And if you buy the media, I don't know what the word for it is, the picture of what they sell us of what Africa is like, then you automatically assume they're just a bunch of naked people living in huts and couldn't possibly have machinery and banks and all that kind of thing. So along those lines, then you can see where they're saying, how are we going to implement this? Now, carbon emissions is this huge hoax that Al Gore started years ago, because what they wanted to do is come up with new inventive ways to tax mankind. Like, they're not taxing you enough. So they wanted to come up with what they call the fart tax, the gas tax, where everybody would be allotted a certain amount of air a month, and if you use too much of it, carbon, you get taxed. I don't know how they do this. And so apparently America is the only country in the world that seems to be really enforcing this and worried about it, because with the Chinese, with their 1.3 billion, weren't even interested in it. They said they might implement it in 2025, and there is no scientific proof that lowering carbon emissions would even affect global warming. There's no scientific proof whatsoever. It's voodoo science that carbon emissions has anything absolutely to do with global warming. In fact, it doesn't. In fact, it's all hogwash, because what they want to sell you is another tax, so they can tax you and it can go into Al Gore's pocket and the UN's pockets. And hidden in this bill is the whole global NESARA, National Economic Security Reformation Act, or GUSERA, which is Global Economic Security Reformation Act. This is a whole new banking system that's going to be imposed on the world, and it's going back to a gold-backed standard currencies. So when they talk about, hey, Paris Agreement, implemented Friday, what they're really talking about is, hey, it's time for the new gold-backed currency to begin, because that's what's stuffed in the bill. And so that's supposed to be ready to be implemented worldwide on Friday, November 4th, which is, interestingly enough, the date that is the biggest arrival date for the Ascended Masters. I know the Muslims have been waiting for their 12th Imam to arrive, and that is Maitreya. And so his arrival date, he's always wanted to arrive. The prophecies are that he arrives during prayer time. And so typically that is, Friday is the Sabbath day for Muslims. And so it's always been a target date for his arrival, to arrive on a Friday. And I know that they want to be here. If you go to the New Age blah blah boards, they're always talking about humanitarian projects, and how they're going to get, people are going to make millions and billions of dollars from this GUSERA and NESARA, and all these billions of dollars of funds and trust funds are going to be poured into the world, so that all these huge humanitarian projects can be implemented. And these people believe this. They've spent their lives, the last at least 15, 20 years, believing this hype, waiting for it to happen. But that will not begin until they arrive. Even if there was some kind of currency revaluation before their arrival, to get everybody kind of, maybe give everybody an appetizer nibble on your currency evaluations, and then the main entree arrives, and then the dessert is the humanitarian project. I don't know, however way you want to look at it. Either way, the humanitarian projects are in the back end. They're the dessert. They're after they arrive and come to Earth. They're not going to be before, even if the other things happen before. That certainly won't. And I say that with a grain of salt, but that's what they told me. And they never tell the truth about anything. It's always, we'll wait and see. We'll see. Not holding my breath. So it'll just be interesting to see if something starts to happen. Now, people are always asking me what's going on with the elections and stuff. And you know what, folks? I just, right now it's Comedy Central. And it's been amusing, and it's been fun. But I have to toe the line with what I see in the codes. And I've warned you to watch for two events coming. The two events being the arrival of the Ascended Masters and, of course, the arrival of when the elect leave the Earth. And so we're looking at a removal of the first group of bride, the Lord's bride that leaves, and you're at the same time you're looking at the arrival of the New Age Ascended Masters, which includes the biblically prophesied Antichrist and false prophet of Revelation chapter 13. And so these two huge events are like back-to-back. They're back-to-back. And what I see is that Obama is anxiously awaiting for their arrival. And so I think that if they pull it off, what they want to do is pull off an arrival before the elections. Because they want, they've got all this stuff with Obama. Obama's aligned with them. He always has been. And Maitreya often uses his body. I've told you Obama is a clone. They have very many, there's 12 of them. And so Maitreya can use his bodies to speak through. And he does. And so if he wanted to use Obama as a mouthpiece, he could. I guess that's what I'm saying. Because Jermaine could easily be the one that just arrives and starts implementing all of this global revaluation stuff. Because it's always been in his ballpark anyway. He's the money man. And he could arrive with Sananda. Maitreya just has a really hard time. He has issues with his body. And so I'll give you some background on Maitreya, who he really is. He is one of Lilith's sons, and just as they all are, Sananda's one of her sons too. But Maitreya is different. Maitreya, he was always experimenting, and so he used to inject himself with some kind of stuff. I don't know. If anybody came up with this transgender stuff, it would have been Maitreya, because he's really into this changing body chemistries and stuff. But what he did was he ended up ruining his head. It became that I'm getting really hot in here. Like a blasting in it with a heat wave in here. I'm going to see if I'm going to head outside here for a little bit. See if I can get some air out here. See if there's anything happening in the sky. Nope, there's the star though. That blue star, that's always dogs barking like usual. Blue star, it's always there. It never leaves. In the same spot every single night. Whether the sky is black or not, it usually shows up. And that's the one I got on my YouTube channel. But Maitreya used to inject all these chemicals into his head. And what happened was it became that huge elongated thing. You see these skulls, the elongated skulls? Because in my first book I revealed that the Martians, the Egyptians, were from Mars, because that was Maitreya's stomping ground at the time. It always has been for a long time before he went to Shima. But he ended up transforming his own head into some elongated, egg-shaped head. And so the offspring that came to Earth, the ancient Egyptians, they were his creation. They were his offspring somehow, because they all have that head. And it was because of him. And so that's interesting. That's just kind of like a blast of history for you. But ever since we started the Oregon War, there was I don't know if it was in the past or if it's something in the future, something that's already happened. But he was going to have a crash landing to Earth. I think it already happened. And it put him in a wheelchair. It really destroyed his body. And the orgone-saturated air has just, it gives them poliomyelitis. It's like a necrosis. It's like it eats away at their flesh and their bodies. And so it's really affected his body because he's changed the chemical composition so many times of his own body that he was the first one to suffer the effects of orgone. And they've been debilitating to him. And so he can't use his real body at all. In fact, every time I've seen him, he's taken a fake body. And what they'll do is they'll manufacture human-looking bodies, like they'll just make a clone up. And that's what he'll use. And that's what a lot of them do. And that's how they got into cloning. And, you know, they've gotten to the point where they can make a clone in one day now. But the generations of them are really bad. You know, it's better for them if the host is still alive than just to keep cloning dead tissue. And so, you know, they're running out of ways to manipulate and deceive people. And so that's why they're onto the whole transgender thing now, where everything, good is evil, evil is good, black is white, white is black, everything's opposite. And they've taken this to a whole new extreme, to where everyone you see on TV, you don't know what you're seeing. Is that really a guy? Is that really a girl? You know, Fox News came out and wanted to be the conservative network out of all the other ones because everybody already hated all the other ones because they're so liberal. The liberal left dominates them. And so they painted up Fox News to be the conservative network. And what they did was use transgenders to come in as women, big mouths, and fighting for the patriots and blah, blah, blah. And they're not even real women. They're transgenders. And you know what? If somebody wants to change their sex and rebel against God, that, you know, that's on them. But what the whole problem I have with it is the fraud that takes place. Because if you're a man posing as a woman, then that should be revealed that you're a man, don't you think? I mean, it shouldn't be something that people find out in an accidental way, especially as men who think they're picking up women in dating sites and stuff and find out they're men. It's a gender identity. I think it's gender identity fraud, and so it shouldn't be allowed, but they do it anyway. Michelle Obama is a transsexual. Melania Trump. Barbara Bush was born a boy. They've been throwing it in our faces for a long time. And we're just waking up to it. And that's one thing that Lucifer had told me, is that you guys are so slow. Well, we don't think at the levels that they do. We certainly don't go to that level of depravity every day to think how we can rebel against God's creation. Yeah, see, there's the triangle. It's perfectly right above the front area of my yard, and I'm pretty sure even as far as Canada could probably see this, because I share the same sky with this entire region here. I'm sure Tennessee and those in the south could look up this way and see this triangle, 3 blue stars. That's the portal. So that is the significance. There's things I'm not allowed to reveal. Signs that the Father has given me to watch for in these last days, especially in terms of when the elect are leaving. And so I'm watching all the time. And, of course, they're watching me, watching for him, because they want to know when I leave, because when I leave, it's their sign, it's their signal that they can begin implementing the Luciferian agenda on Earth in full force, which means candle snuffing time. They're going to come after the Lord's people. Wow. What is that? I've never done a show outside before, so it's really refreshing. It's not hot out here because they have my desk chair GPS, so they know how to target me and blast me up with heat. I don't know if that's a star or a starship. I can't tell if it's moving or sitting there, but it's blinking. I think it's something moving, like a trawler or something. Yeah, it's one of those trawlers. You'll see them fly through the sky at night, and when they're different colors, they're alien trawlers. What I call trawlers. I know that's some kind of shipping term, but that's what they're actually called from the Hebrew language. It's a translated word. They're patrollers, and so they just call them trawlers because they're patrollers. And what they do is patrol the regions at night, patrol certain particular airspace, like Ohio. Michigan can see them, Indiana, this whole region. They hate this region. They hate this region because there's Orgone henges up here. And if they get too close to the Earth, they'll get trapped in the orgone-saturated air, and they'll catch on fire, burn, and crash. And then all you hear is the media talking about meteors falling to Earth. And it's actually UFOs, because our war against them has been very effective. And I'm not talking about the little metallic things. I'm talking huge starships that crashed Earth. Those little gray things, though, they don't last. They don't cause much commotion when they just burn up and go. It's like a flash in the air. When you hear the big booms, like always seem to fall in Russia, those are the huge starships. So it's great because they think if they stay out of America, they'll be safe. But we have Orgone warriors all over the world. We have Orgone all over Israel. We have Orgone in Iraq in the Green Zone. We have Orgone everywhere. And so they can't escape the Father's Orgone energy. And he can crank it up a billionfold, however many folds he wants, and get them. And that's what we're doing. So, it's kind of interesting out here tonight. I can see it's the 3 stars. Usually about 3 to 4 a.m. is when they lighten up and you can go outside and actually see the stars. I think that's when all the black tech fades. You know, they spray the sky with that black and gray tech every night. And it's good for about 4 hours, and it starts to fade. Starts to wear off. I'll tear down that cage. Somehow. I've also heard them reference and talk about the cage and Dreamscape. What is that called? The Dreamweaver? The Soul Machine? Some device they used to have on the moon, and it would suck souls as they died up into this machine on the moon and just recycle them. And this is typically what happens to hybrids and the fallen ones that are on Earth. And then they die, and they can become victim to just being reincarnated over and over again because they're fallen angel spirits, first of all. They're Satan's vessels. He uses them. And, you know, I've shown pictures of people like Johnny Depp, Brad Pitt, Nicolas Cage, all these people that just never die. They just lived throughout all the centuries, and they found pictures from the 16 and 1800s of them. Because that's what happens. When they do die, they just get a new body and start a whole new, different life on Earth again. They just recycle because they're fallen angels. So you would have to read my article, Angels in the Flesh. I just came back in here, and I think I was happier outside. Another thing the Father wanted me to talk about was setting the record straight on a few things, and in particular, the Abomination of Desolation. Because I think this is one of the most misunderstood prophecies in the churches today, and this is what's tripping up a lot of the church crowd, because they keep waiting for the tribulation period won't begin until the third temple is rebuilt in Jerusalem. And I couldn't scream any louder, folks. That's all a Masonic distraction. It's from the Masons. It's not true. They don't need a third temple in Jerusalem. In Matthew 24:15, it says, "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let him which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down and take anything out of his house. For then shall be great tribulation, such as not was since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be." This abomination of a desolation stands in the holy place. Now notice the admonishment in verse 24:15, "Whoso readeth, let him understand." In other words, if the holy place was the Jewish temple, then why the admonishment? Everyone would know that's what this passage is referring to, but the real meaning is hidden, and that's why it admonishes the reader to understand what is meant by holy place, because it's not the Jewish temple. Yeshua said if you destroy his temple, he would raise it up in 3 days. He wasn't talking about the physical Jewish holy temple, and neither is this passage. The holy temple is your body. It's a person's body. The temple used to be physical and made of hands. When Yahushua died and rose from the grave, the temple became spiritual. Our bodies became living temples to him. People go to Daniel and start pulling up verses in Daniel, and folks, Satan doesn't make covenants with mankind. Only the Father does. Satan hates the Holy Covenant because he hates the person who made it, and he hates the people who were part of the covenant. He is the outsider looking outside this covenant, hating both ends of it. That's what Daniel is in regards to. He goes after the people of the covenant, and that is the covenant that God established with us. He goes after the Christians, and you're going to see this, what he refers to as candle snuffing time, start to come out in full force next year. This chipping of the hands, MasterCard PayPass thing they're bringing out, this they call it the NFC chip, and it's almost like you take cell phones now and you can swipe them on those pay things, like PayPass. Now they've got these NFC chips that they're putting in people's hands, and they can use their hands to pay for things instead of their cell phones. Chip implanting in either hand. This is what he's talking about, the abomination of desolation, when Satan stands in the holy place. He's putting his chip, his mark, inside of the Lord's people. Now, the Lord's people would not allow this, because if you allow it to be chip implanted, there's no forgiveness, there's no redemption. In fact, the Bible speaks very clearly that all those who accept the mark of the beast in or around their right hand or forehead will be cast into the lake of fire. So there's no forgiveness for this, folks. I have several videos up about the chip, RFID mark of the beast. Now they've changed it to NFC. It's okay. It's the same thing. It's a chip. All comes down to a chip, being chip implanted. That will defile the holy place, which is the temple of God, which we are the living temple of God. And so that is truly what the Abomination of Desolation is all about, is when he begins his persecution of the saints on earth and enforcing his mark on them. So people need to wake up. They need to be prepared for this. People who are waiting for a third temple in Jerusalem, you're going to be caught off guard, unaware, because events of the tribulation period are going to start happening. You're not going to recognize them, and you're not going to know what's going on, because you're waiting for the temple. You think there's supposed to be the third temple in Jerusalem. The Lord will reestablish his temple in Jerusalem after the second coming of Christ and not before. He does not have his people over there now to build a temple. Oh, the Jews over there right now would love it. They would love it. And they laugh at the American churches, how stupid they are, and love their support because they worship Satan. And so what they would like to do is build a new temple and restart sacrificing animals again. Even how barbaric that is at this time of age, they would do it because it mocks the perfect sacrifice of Yahushua on the cross. It mocks that, negates it. It says, oh, we're still waiting for the Messiah to come. Here, sacrifice a goat, sacrifice a cow. Let's go back to sin offerings. Let's go back to the ancient Stone Age days here. When everything was just starting out. They would be doing it in mockery. And so churches who support this nonsense, you're guilty of it. You're guilty of colluding with them and their Satanism. That's why I say, churches have no business supporting the Israel of today because they're Satan worshipers. They're not even real Jews. Revelation 2:9 and 3:9, they are fake Jews. They're Khazarian Jews. They're Turks. They speak Hasidic. They don't speak Aramean. They don't speak Hebrew. They speak Hasidic. That is a Turkish language. They're not real Jews. But what they do is soak the Americans and the churches of their support. And they ride a mile on it. And they deceive them. They think, oh, yeah, support us, support Israel. We can do no wrong. We're going to go kill 1 million Palestinians today. And the churches in America will still support us. You've been supporting that bloodbath over there, all that Satanism they push through the Talmud. That's what you're supporting if you're in a church supporting Israel today. The people of Israel, there's two different things. There's the land of Israel, Eretz Israel, and that's the land of Israel. And then there's the people of Israel. The people of Israel are in America and Europe. They're not in. There is a fraction of them in Israel today. But the Lord never rounded them up in 1948 and sent them over there. The Masons sold you a line of garbage and you bought it. He isn't rounding up anybody over there. And he won't until after the second coming of Christ, Yeshua. All of that was instigated by the Rothschilds and the UN to give Israel their own land. The Holocaust was designed to kill off the true Torah-believing Jews, the Israelites, so that the satanic Talmud ones could take over. They killed off all the Torah-believing ones. And then when there was enough numbers of the satanic Talmud-believing ones, they gave them back their land so that they could be the ones in charge. Then they gave them a symbol, the Star of David. Israel never had a symbol, folks. And the Star of David's a pentagram. Completely evil. You've all been played. And then you try to get people to wake up. They hate you and fight against you. But this is what's coming, folks. These are the things that are coming. Candle snuffing, the Abomination of Desolation is right around the corner. By September of 2017, they want to have full implementation of the mark of the beast. If you start hearing about people getting chips in their hands, stay away from it. Warn them. Make up signs and posters and videos. Do not get the chip. I don't know what they call it, the master hand pass. master hand, the master chip. Gonna block you out of your bank accounts until you get the chip. Gonna use coercion and force and bullying tactics. That's why he says to run to the mountains, to flee. He's saying get out of the cities, get away from population, to run to the mountains. People are going to have to use an underground economy to survive, because you won't be able to survive in society. You won't be able to buy gas. You won't be able to cash your paychecks. You won't be able to pay rent, pay your mortgage. You won't be allowed to own property unless you get the mark of the beast. So all these preppers who have spent all these umpteen years spending tens of thousands of dollars, and we've all heard about them, just spending thousands of dollars in prepping. You know, when they come to their door and ask, to see their chip, they don't have their chip. They're going to be hauled off to a FEMA camp. They're going to lose their property. You're not allowed to hold property unless you have the mark of the beast. So what's all this stuff done for the preppers at that time? Better have a good gun with a lot of ammo and neighbors to back you up, is what I have to say. That's what he says, run to the mountains, flee to the mountains. Israel runs to Petra, the rock rose city in Jordan. That is their safe haven, Petra. The Father will have various woods around the world for his people at that time. But this is the stuff that's coming, folks. I wish people would focus on just getting the orgone out, because, orgone melts their clone tech. If you've seen Hillary Clinton's performances in the last several months, then nothing else should have to convince you that the orgone works. She shorts out. It melts them. It destroys their ships. It's the one weapon we have. It's what he gave us to get out. There's 101 different uses for the orgone. That's why we work so hard in getting it out. And it'll work against all these NATO troops and UN troops that are coming in, because they're not even human. They're chip implanted, they're transhuman soldiers, they're clones, they're androids. I've heard a lot of things about NATO soldiers, and human isn't one of them. And orgone will cause these kinds of soldiers to melt and malfunction. They're the ones that are going to be sent door to door to round up people if they don't have a chip. Because if you don't have a chip, you can't live in your apartment, you can't live in your house. That's why they're rounding up people. Because these people refuse to get it, they don't have it, and they refuse to get it. That's why FEMA roundups all of a sudden start to make sense, huh? Why are they going door to door rounding up people? They don't care if your name's on a list. They're just going to look for you, look at your hands, forehead, and say, where's the chip? If you don't have it, you're hauled off. So prepare, folks. This week, November 4th, Friday, is their date to start implementation of the treaty that they've all already ratified, the Paris Agreement. I don't know if Obama will actually grow a pair and make an announcement on TV about all of the things that were associated with the Paris Agreement, start talking about NESARA, and what they call the New Republic of America. All that stuff's a joke. Obama's supposed to be arrested. If they have their way, Obama, Biden, and Clinton will be arrested. And Paul Ryan, Speaker of the House, will step in the meantime until new elections are held. Some people think Donald Trump will take over as president. Others are saying it's all going to be completely null and void. Paul Ryan will be the interim president until new elections, which will never happen. But he won't stay as president either. He's just the interim guy. And so maybe that's why Obama wants the alien arrival, so that he can sneak off to Hawaii. He's got a state in Hawaii. I know he was down in Antarctica a couple months ago, probably trying to secure a condo. in Shambhala, Underworld City. Hillary buying a mansion in Qatar. So they're getting set. They don't even know which route is going to happen. But I can guarantee if November 8th comes or 6th, there's no elections. Is that November 8th election? Yeah, November 8th. If the Ascended Masters and all them don't implement their programs by then Obama's going to have a different backup to try and stall elections. But that's the one I'm waiting for right now as well, because their arrival is just so dominant, and now it's just the time. November 8th is their crunch time. Even Friday, because Friday is when the Paris Agreement is supposed to start being implemented, and they need the leaders here to lead it, and they're the leaders of it. They're the leaders. They're the authors of the whole thing. They're the ones who have put this into play. And so they need to be here to jumpstart it and start it. So this should be an interesting week. Anyway, next week, the Avalanche hasn't hit. We talk about more things that Father wants me to get out there, because there's just so many things that people are so turned around on scripture-wise. The Abomination of Desolation and the Third Temple just being two of them. Anyway, folks, I have an article on my website, SherryShriner.com, The Abomination of Desolation, and also the last article I wrote, setting the record straight on end-time prophecy events. And so, Bible prophecy for the last days, setting the record straight. You need to read that article. Stop pumping out Masonic distractions, and figure out what the truth is, the events that are actually coming and going to be happening, and the ones that won't be, so you're not wasting time. Anyway, I need your support, folks. The fat lady's singing. I got less than 90 seconds left. You go to SherryShriner.com, click on the GoFundMe button or the donate page, and support my ministry, support our war here on earth. We don't know how many more days or even weeks we have. Anyway, till next week, everybody.